Good afternoon. Welcome to the Northampton County Council budget meeting. Tonight's first budget meeting includes general government, public works, capital projects, and capital improvements plan. Do we have any courtesy of the floor? Courtesy of the floor gets 5 minutes. State your name and the town within which you reside.
My name's Josh Peters. I'm living in Hanover Township. I have some packets. May I hand them out?
You could hand them to our clerk, or you could pass them from the end.
Good evening, members of the County Council. My name is Joshua Peters. I'm the president of the Northampton County Fire Chiefs Association. I would like to begin by sincerely thanking you guys for the continued support of public safety initiatives, particularly for approving the funding last year that allowed us, the county, to complete the countywide radio infrastructure project. That investment was crucial, and we are grateful. This afternoon, I come to you once again to ask for support, this time to assist our fire departments with purchasing radios necessary to operate on the new system you helped build. As part of the preparation, I surveyed the 39 fire departments in the county. Of those, 34 responded. Here are my key findings. A total of 426 radios are purchased so far, with combined funding from department budgets, DCED grants, and other external grants. The cost of these already purchased was $5,112,000. 8 departments have not been able to purchase any radios as of yet. We estimate 1,058 radios are still needed across the county to fully outfit our departments at a minimum projected cost of $12,696,000. Based on Northampton County emergency management specifications, the average cost per radio, accounting for both handheld and mobile units, is approximately $12,000. The critical need for these radios relies on the reliability and safety they provide. The current radio system has significant gaps, both geographically and due to environmental factors, that can compromise communication even when using VRS systems. The new system you funded solves those issues, providing countywide coverage and multiple operation channels for improved safety and efficiency during emergency response. We also investigated the DCED grant utilization among departments. 25 departments currently use the DCED grant funding. 6 of them do not. 3 are not eligible. Out of those who applied, 9 departments received the full grant amount, while 10 did not and 5 did not report their status. In closing, we are asking for the council's continued support in identifying funds to help bridge the gap and ensure every department has the radios needed to fully participate in the new system. Your investment will directly impact the safety and effectiveness of our first responders and ultimately the residents of this county. Thank you for your time and commitment to public safety.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to courtesy of the floor? Hearing no one, we'll begin. We'll begin with the general government program. I thought we didn't, but okay. Where would we, hold on, let me, where would I find that? 69? Okay. It's been requested to let our bi-county venture representatives go first this evening, so that would be page 69 in the white book, I believe. Is that correct? It's going to take me a week to get white book, blue book down. Authorities, boards, commissions, and bi-county ventures. And in the blue book, it's 60. Is there anybody on the phone? Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, do you want to go first?
you for having us today.
Sure.
I'm Becky Bradley, Executive Director of the LVPC. I'm joined by Tracy Hoskovich, our Director of Administration, and Armando Moritz-Japelican, the LVPC Treasurer and Wilson Borough resident. What's coming around to you is a copy of a couple things. First is the report of plan activity from January through September for Northampton County, which was rough. This is the Bi-County Planning Program, and specifically what's been proposed here in this county. And it's about 50-50 right now. I think Lehigh County has like one less plan that we've reviewed so far, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. The full budget request that we met with Executive McClure on several months ago, as well as a copy of the Lehigh Valley Watersheds Assessment, which Tracy's going to talk to you a little bit about in a minute. So if you flip to the first page, the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission is a Bi-County Planning Commission under a series of laws, primarily the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code for the Bi-County Planning Commission components, but we also deal with the U.S. Compact for with the Delaware Basin Commission for water withdrawals, and we're regulatory on Pennsylvania Act 167 stormwater work, which again, Tracy's going to tell you about in a little bit. There's been so much going on, as you know, in terms of development. If you look at the bottom of page 2 in our original request, in 2024, we had 284 subdivision and land development reviews that we did just for Northampton County. We're already at 250, and our busiest time is between September and December each year. So you're gonna continue to see more development activity come into the county. We review everything on a 30-day time frame, no exceptions. With the ordinances, they have a 45-day turnaround, but we usually try to do those in 30 as well. So people are not waiting to hear back from the commission, either on our advisory reviews on the land development components or the regulatory reviews on stormwater. Volume has gone way, way up. Number of ordinances and plans, those things the state law does not allow us to charge for under the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Solid waste plan reviews, traffic impact assessments, all of those things are growing. So our local governments are trying to respond to the growth pressures with doing ordinance amendments and other things, and the development keeps coming as Pennsylvania is a right to develop state. So those core county planning responsibilities are what we do for you 365 days a year for almost 65 years now. And we requested basically $900,000 for that, including $69,500 for the transportation planning investment strategy. That's the portion of the match to the federal dollars. So for each dollar Northampton County contributes to the metropolitan planning, the transportation planning program, $195.74 is leveraged into transportation projects, and $26.28 is invested in transportation professional services. So that upfront part is all those required tasks that we have to do. Whatever comes in the door, we need to manage and respond in a timely manner per whatever law is applicable. In addition, there's things that we have to do on a cycle. And the Act 167 Stormwater Management Program is one of those. And I'm just going to set Tracy up here real quick and let you know that Northampton County has 10 out of the 15 or 16 watersheds in the Lehigh Valley. Every 5 years, counties are required to update those plans. County planning does that work. For a while, the state was funding the update of those plans, and people were doing it on a regular cycle in partnership with a match requirement. Then they stopped funding them. Then people stopped keeping them updated. Now, the good news is the Commonwealth is actually interested in the update of those plans because of the amount, not only of growth happening here, but that's a major reason to do it, that the law requires it, but that clean water, especially drinking water, and reducing impacts to streams is critically important to the public health, safety, and welfare. So I'm going to kick it over to Tracy here. And one other thing I forgot to tell you. Right now, out of the 10 watershed plans that we have done for you guys, the effective plan age is 27.8 years of those. So one of them done in 1989, a number of them done throughout the 1990s, and the newest one was done in 2018 for the Bushkill Creek watershed. So it's in need of update too. And Tracy's going to tell you about the money we were able to raise and the match that we would request.
Yes, thank you, Becky. Yeah, so these plans are pretty dated. We were the entity that originally drafted them back starting in the 80s. And they take about 2 years each to do, about 150,000 in today's dollars to do one watershed plan. We decided to approach the state and request that we could do all 15 of the Lehigh Valley watersheds at one time to provide you all and the residents of the Lehigh Valley cost savings. We're gonna save over $1 million and over 20 years of effort, because we're gonna do them all at once. And we were banging down the doors of the state on every program that we could possibly fit into. So we have flood mitigation assistance money through PEMA. We have ARPA money through DCED, and we have 2 different sets of Department of Environmental Protection funds into this project. We raised over $831,000 to do all 15 together. Estimated total project cost just over $1.1 million, and we're looking for the 25% required match. We asked Lehigh County for 12.5% of that. Amounts to $138,000. They did commit to that, and they are providing that. We are looking for the 12.5% match from Northampton County to finish that out. To date, Northampton County has contributed $25,000 towards that, so we're looking for the additional $116,000 to go into the plan to meet that match requirement that the state puts on us.
Can I stop you?
Oh, sure.
Is that in addition to the total ask, or are you breaking down the numbers? So you want 969.5 plus 116?
Yes.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was ready for questions anyway.
Oh, okay.
If you had any on that one. Yeah.
So you're going to review the 15 watersheds over the 2 counties. How do the local NPDES permits and so on and so forth for stormwater feed into that? Because, the boroughs, townships also have to have their reviews done, and you have to report and maintain your stormwater local system. How does that roll up into what you're doing, or how are they related, I guess, would be the question, financially also?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Because this 167 work, also the plan that you do and the whole watershed analysis also requires municipal ordinance. So we write the ordinance and then they adopt it. And so some of those ordinances are very, very old, and that's causing issues with delays, cost, and then some things that should be looked at aren't being looked at because the ordinances need to be updated. So as part of this, we would create the ordinance for every one of the communities. The other thing that it does, it helps them with their municipal separate storm sewer compliance requirements from the federal government, which is what's costing a lot of our local governments, in excess of $1 million a year to try to deal with runoff-related issues. So this does help everybody, people filing plans and making it more efficient through the ordinance, and making that quicker, making sure the regulations actually fit the world that we live in today, not the world that we lived in 1992, right? Because that's substantially changed. And it helps then save taxpayers money for compliance, even in other aspects of the law.
Follow up to that then, you're reporting that you're doing 521 plan reviews, 284 subdivision reviews, but you only have 85 stormwater reviews. You would think most of the land development has some stormwater-related component that has to be reviewed and reported with the land development plan as part of those components. How does that augment or hinder what you're trying to roll up? And really, you're looking to create a regional comprehensive program, essentially what you're trying to do. How does the land development component and the developers fit into that puzzle?
Sure. The separate number for stormwater is, some reviews don't require land development, but there's so much disturbance that it has to go through just the stormwater.
okay.
So it's, you add those together. But what it does is it's that basically one single ordinance for all the communities. So there's consistency across the board, and that's ultimately what we would achieve out of, on the implementation side of the plan. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, and all the local governments are at the table the whole time. That's a requirement for the funding, that they are the working group for this. And then the conservation districts also get involved. We invite the local DEP folks and that sort of thing.
Questions?
Hi, everybody. Armando Moritz Pelican, Wilson Borough, here in capacity as the treasurer of Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. One of the points I just wanted to kind of emphasize here, particularly as you're looking at all of the numbers, and I'm thinking back to budget cycle from last year and being nostalgic for that, was just recognizing the fact that to put this in the broadest context, we have a very good problem in that there is a lot of development attention in the Lehigh Valley. The problem with that, though, is that a lot of that development has to go through review and has to go through plans. And the reality is that, at least, and I can speak from my own experiences in Wilson Borough and surrounding communities, but also numerous other rural communities across the county, is that the municipalities themselves don't necessarily have the planning capacity necessary to effectively evaluate the merits or the shortfalls or the issues with potential developments. And that's part of one of the reasons why I've been so excited to be a part of LVPC and see how we provide that regional guidance, not just for Northampton County, but also for Lehigh County, and provide that additional technical assistance and that support, partly because it is an important role for us to play for regional development, but also, as was being mentioned before, we are required to provide the support. And so to put a lot of this work and put some of these asks into context, the work is only going to continue. There's going to be increased work, there's going to be increased development pressures, and these reviews need to be done. It's not a matter of, LVPC just saying, well, we're not going to do these reviews anymore. We are required by law to do this work, and so whether we receive the support or not, the work is going to be required. I mention this particularly because, especially in looking at the amount of development pressure that is going on and the amount of projects that have come through both in the past year as well as what we're anticipating for next year, the reality is that if we do not receive the funding to be able to continue to do this work at the quality that we've been able to do it, people are not going to be able to keep their jobs. That is just a reality of where we are right now. It's an unfortunate reality given all of the different pressures that are happening right now, both locally at a state level as well as at the federal level. But I did want to mention that because the folks who really do end up suffering the most are not necessarily the folks who are at the podium right now, but they're residents who want to have clean communities, want to have safe streets, want to be able to live in a community where they're able to raise a family and go to work and to be a part of, the Lehigh Valley as a whole. So I wanted to just add that point in because I think it is important and significant to consider the fact that all these different numbers that we're considering here, whether it's on residential, non-residential, stormwater management, all of that ultimately results in developments that are going to be a part of our lived environment for years to come. And all of that work requires review through institutions like LVPC. So I would hope you consider that as you're deliberating on this budget. Thank you.
I missed your point, people will lose their jobs if you don't get the funding. Could you clarify that? I didn't quite track with that.
The situation is this is similar to you. Costs have gone up and the volume of work has gone up, and we have to have the staff to do that work is basically it. And so if we can't maintain the staff, then there's an issue. And for the 900,000 component of it, specifically for bi-county planning, that money has to go into the update of the county comprehensive plan next year. So that requires a lot more services related to that. We've been providing services to the Slate Belt communities in particular for over 10 years at this point. I think we're going on 12 years. Now, because of grant funds from the county, they're able to implement their multi-municipal comprehensive plan and be able to do their zoning ordinance updates and official maps, like all together. That's saving them hundreds of thousands of dollars from that county investment. But we basically have to serve as their administrative arm or that project will never get done. And so they have to have somebody managing their consultants, and those sorts of things. And that falls within the state statute to county planning. So we're just stretched really, 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 really thin right now, in addition to the cost increases. And that's why we were asking for more funds, plus all of these things that we have to do on a cycle. It is of note that Lehigh County is voting on their budget tonight, and they have $969,500 in their budget for us total. So it's not the full ask for county planning because it includes their portion of the Act 167, but they did honor the vast majority of our request because they see the stress. We're writing model guidance on data centers and advanced manufacturing locations right now because local governments have to put in regulations for that, or they're gonna end up in the same situation they were in with some of the industrial development, right? But they needed guidance on that, and county planning does that. So there's all of these things that are just happening all at once, on top of the normal day-to-day work. So that's really where our stress is we have to have the staff to be able to deliver these regulatory requirements, especially in responding to our local governments and making sure you have a set of goals, policies, and actions that are critically important to where you need to take the county.
Then just to follow up, because last year we were going through this, you were taken to task for, you moved your offices, right? You relocated in the past year or two to new offices, the cost of that. Could you just comment on the cost you're talking about here versus your operating cost and how that is
They're less.
related?
They're less. And that's exactly why the executive committee voted to relocate. Yeah, I mean, the rent and, which is a triple net lease, so most of the things are included in that. We have electric bill, that is less than what we were paying with the escalator over time at the old building. Plus we have the security that we need, that we did not have before. We were in unsafe condition there, but literally it's a little bit less than the other place.
So your operating overhead cost are fundamentally the same or less, but yet the other cost of,
Yeah, the staffing costs.
I mean, there's a component of increased technology, right? And increased costs related to technology, regardless of which physical location we're in, as we grow as a team. And those costs, to stay, innovative and at the top of planning and be the planning experts in the region, that have increased over time, just like they would for you all in the county. And so we see increases there. Unfortunately, healthcare costs, you all, I'm sure, see it as well. Again, that's not relevant to which physical location we're in. The physical location expenses are less.
Ms. Keegan?
Yes. What is your fund balance for 2025, and what do you plan for your fund balance to be in 2026?
Our fund balance is 100 to 150%. Our goal is 100 to 150% of our revenue budget annually. So it will be 100 to 150% of wherever we land for our 2026 budget, hopefully with the funding from you all as part of that message. I would say currently we have not had yet to tap our fund balance, but we are looking at that given the state and federal budget situations that you all are also aware of with the shutdowns and delayed payments. So we'll be accessing that in the next couple of months here as we wait for the state to open back up their flow of funds to us.
And the
But-
commission executive committee hired an independent third party to do an analysis of what our fund balance should be because we're a non-taxing governmental entity. And then they adopted a new fund balance policy around that last year, which then we're required to maintain. That is actually what's kept our lights on. For example, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, which is the Philadelphia's version of us on the transportation planning side, they only had 2 months of operating revenue and had to take out a line of credit. and are looking at mass furloughs. In our case, we've been able to plan more judiciously in accordance with that policy. So we are not in a position where we have to consider turning part of the lights off, but many, many places are, and we understand that. It's also important to note that that fund balance is going to keep us, none of our federal funding or state funding has been cut, so it's going to be a delay in recovering that. We just don't know when that delay is. So similar to you, we're having to shoulder that. And that's why that fund balance is absolutely imperative for the operations of the commission.
Okay, so I don't know what 100 to 150% means. And let's say that the budget passes and you get all your money. What is it in dollar amounts for 2025 and then what you plan for in 2026?
Yeah, it's about $3 million currently.
And then for 2026?
Would be whatever our adopted budget is based on the actions of our funders. So we do our budget like very late in the game because we're working on it now. But once that's adopted, as part of that, the fund balance gets reviewed and we account for that in the budget proposal that we talk to the executive committee about. So we'll have to work towards funding that to that fund balance policy, and we include that in the budget process.
And then you said that you were stretched thin. How many empty positions do you currently have?
We have 4 empty positions right now, all of them but half of them, I guess. 2 and 2 are new to address workload increases, and then 2 are existing. One that we were authorized this year to fill that we had specifically kept vacant for financial reasons for the last, I think, 3 or 4 years.
And are they budgeted for now?
They are.
Okay, and then going off of Mr. Brown's question about rent and all that, how much fund balance did you use to build the new office?
I don't remember exactly, but over $1 million of the fit out was covered by the landlord.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Kraft?
Yeah, I have a question for you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, how much of your budget is actually salaries and benefits?
We are a professional services provider, so the vast majority of it is that, with probably about 10 to 15% going to the actuary, the auditor, the solicitor, things of that nature. But it's always going to be that way because our job is to provide those professional and technical services to the community.
That didn't answer my question. How much of your budget is salaries and benefits?
Well, about 80 some odd, 90%.
90% in salaries and benefits, and then the other 10% pays for that new building, for the new
Yeah, it
place?
might be a little less than 80, 90%, somewhere in there, but yeah.
Depending on the projects in a given year, these cyclical projects we mentioned, if we need consulting support services, that number might move a little bit. But
Okay, and I missed the beginning here, but what was your ask for this year? What are you asking us to increase our contribution to you to?
For county planning, 900,000, and then the $69,500 match. And again, you've kept the contribution at about $625 for a handful of years. Lehigh County has edged theirs up over the years to address the growth in the county. You do have an agreement with Lehigh County that you will match the contribution between the 2 counties. Lehigh County has obviously not spoken to you guys about that directly in the recent past, but it has been a discussion at the LVPC Executive Committee.
Okay, but you're asking for $900,000?
$969,500. And we can get back to you on the exact breakdown of the budget by bucket too. We can follow up with that tomorrow.
All right, so just doing a little tiny bit of math, at $900,000, $720,000 of that'll go right to salary and benefits? Or 80% of it, like you said? I'm being generous. You said 90%.
Yeah, it depends, again, on the year, on what's consulted out, which cyclical projects we're working on. What do you, remember what the budget number is this year? We can get back to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna
We'll
get
get
back
back
to
to you.
All right, thank you.
Becky, in addition, so in the plan, we have 625, which you said we've given you historically. You're asking for 969.5. But you also mentioned the 116,875. That's on top of that ask, right?
It is.
Yeah, so the
Yep.
total ask, if we were to meet all of your requests, would be an additional, if I did the math right,
138.
461,375 is what you're really asking the county to support, meet 100% of your requirements in this cycle.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And
I
Lehigh
just want to
County-
I want to put a context to the
Sure.
number total.
Sure. Yeah, but you know, in full disclosure, like I mentioned before, Lehigh County has $969,500 in their budget they're adopting tonight. So we'll take the remainder of their Act 167 out of that total number, which is a less because of the commitment for 2025.
Thank you.
Ms. Bradley, how are you? I fully understand that you guys are offering professional services and that is absolutely going to be mostly salaries. And I can appreciate the work you guys do. The Lehigh Valley is obviously bustling with development. I didn't support it last year because Mr. McClure talked about a county planning, pulling out, and then there have been no plans forward with that. Obviously, we need your services. You guys have to fulfill the state laws. You don't have any revenue, you can't tax yourself, so it's our responsibility. I would be in favor of matching what Lehigh County's proposing. I don't know if I'd be much more comfortable going beyond that, because if you sit through the rest of these hearings, you're gonna see that we are going to have quite a struggle just making ends meet with what we're facing everywhere else. But I will at least, advocate for that. I hear you guys, nervousness in your voices trying to come up here and trying to justify what it is that you do. I know you guys have quite a bit of work, so I don't want to stand in the way of that, but I also do appreciate the concerns with, the new office. I thought that was, bad timing, because I think we're facing a lot of this cost of living and all these inflation increases. It's really making it hard without raising taxes to make things work. So although you're asking for a little bit more, I think 969.5, in my opinion, would be at least a fair match of what Lehigh's offering. Hopefully that'll be enough for you guys to make do for next year. And then, obviously next year we'll readdress.
Mr. Kraft again?
Yeah, I just kind of have a question for John. Did you just say you want to give them a 350,000 raise on what we have budgeted in our budget?
I did, Ken.
Okay, well, I am totally against that, so I'm just a no vote. I mean, I like where you're coming from. I understand what they do, but I can't see taking another $300,000 out of our budget, so I'm a no vote on that. So I guess you'll have an amendment, but I'm not going to support it.
I don't think we're voting tonight. Ken, aren't you on the planning commission? Don't you have some of this data for us?
Yeah, I am on the planning commission. They bring the data forward. We're at odds at what they need and what I think they need, so we're kind of on a little different page here. And have been for a while. Their pension funding, all kind of numerous things that they do that I don't agree with. But I'm fiscally conservative, so, sorry.
Becky, how many people work at the LVPC?
25, 24.
Thank you.
If possible, if you could get us some of those budget numbers, I think, in terms of just the staffing and some of the different things that you're talking about, it always helps to see it laid out. I realize you're here to talk about the vision, and I don't think anybody here has a doubt about the vision and the work that you've done. It's really, I think Mr. Gafredo said it pretty well. It's kind of where we're going to get it from. But I also can appreciate that we're not fulfilling our responsibility in a bi-county venture. So I know early on in my tenure here, I felt like I needed to see more equity, and I think that we do now. But again, if you could present some of that data, like what are the projects that we've done so far? What are you planning next year? And then I realize we have a shortfall to make up. So I guess I have one last question for myself. If we don't match, what are the consequences? I have
What
to ask
Armando
that.
said. Yeah, no.
Other than people will lose their jobs, but
Well,
are there
then a
others?
lot of things don't get done, right? Like, that's the truth. And then we end up with even more unfunded mandates. I mean, the 167 to clean that unfunded mandate up has been a very big priority for us for a long time. In fact, I think a number of you advocated through County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania for like, hey, state, you've got to fund this stuff. You can't push this down to the county. So they, and like not then support them in this. And so your advocacy through County Commissioners Association actually helped get that DEP program reestablished and funded through the legislature. So that's a really, really big one for us. And then, you know, my fear is the Slate Belt is doing so well. You guys have continued to invest in it. And if we don't support them, I'm not sure how they're going to be able to manage the consultant that they're hiring to do some of the zoning and official map work. You know, they're the little engine that could, right? And we all know that, but they do need a little extra help, especially with upcoming borough manager retirements and other things. Nazareth area, we've got to continue to work with them to get some of their ordinances updated. And we provide a lot of that day-to-day on-call. Here's some tech assistance for you guys. And we charge where we can charge to try to make it easier and let them know that they got to have some skin in the game too, but they're in the same boat that all of us are in, but just struggling. So those services would have to really get cut. Yep.
Maybe if you would also, when you're including that, some of the projects or because I know that you've spoken in the past about regionalization or, you know, people that are building up new partnerships, so maybe an update. We haven't had an update on what's Northampton County specific in a while, so if you could include that for us, it would be appreciated.
I think that's actually right on the point of why I wanted to come up, because one of the things, and I've mentioned this before in all the different times I've wore different hats at this podium, but I work in community development, and one of the things that I personally, this is somewhat me, I guess, speaking as LVPC, but also just somebody who does this work professionally. One of the things that I think is most important about the work that LVPC does is multi-municipal plans. The fact that you have multiple municipalities coming together to coordinate their planning strategies, to plan how they want to be doing development across municipal boundaries is tremendously significant and important work that is happening right now in the Lehigh Valley. The only way that happens is if you have a trusted third party like LVPC facilitating that process. And so that would be one of the key examples that I would mention in terms of if the funding is not available, that kind of work doesn't get done. And so unfortunately, you end up in a lot of situations where one municipality is trying to do a whole bunch of different things. The municipality right across the line doesn't want to necessarily work with them. There's no trusted partnership. There's no shared vision. And as a result, you have a lot of different developments that are happening that aren't necessarily part of a cohesive vision. So multi-municipal plans, I think, is one of the most significant parts of the work that LVPC does. It's also personally one of the things I think is most exciting about the work, but I think that is we've had a number of successes in terms of different municipalities that have done that type of work and done that kind of partnership over the past few years, so we're happy to share that information with you all. But it's, I think, those kinds of situations and those kinds of collaborations that wouldn't be happening if we don't have the funding to maintain the staff capacity to make that work happen.
Lori had asked for your budget numbers, do you have the ability to do like a 3-year rolling forecast on what you're anticipating based on your rolling, because you got different projects that roll on, roll off, and you're kind of doing this. If you have that, I would appreciate being able to look out, 3 or 4 years just to
Questions that you all had, we're gonna have to look backwards a little bit too, so.
yeah, okay, that'd be helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you for being here. Next, Lanta, I see Owen patiently waiting, thank you.
We didn't have to be as patient. I was kind of settling myself in back there for a long night, so I didn't realize they were gonna. I'm Owen O'Neill. I'm the executive director of Lanta, and just to kind of summarize our budget request for this year, as you see, the total amount is $701,727, and as with our request every year, it is there's two pieces to it.
Wait, could you
and-
say your number again?
701,727, is that total?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, all right, yeah, got me nervous there.
No,
So there's two pieces to it. The first, in both pieces, are basically for required matches for federal and state grants. And the first and the largest piece of it is the required match for the state operating assistance grant that we get from PennDOT. And under Act 89, the non-state match to that is required to be 15%, but when they passed the law, they said any of the systems or localities that weren't at 15% could still comply as long as they continue to increase their contribution by 5% every year. So the Lehigh and Northampton counties together have never been at the 15%, so we've always kind of done the 5% increase every year to stay compliant. And so that piece of it is of the 701, 644,000 of that is the match for the operating assistance grant. And where that number comes from also is back when we did the charter change for Lanta, when we did the charter renewal, we changed the way that the match between the two counties was calculated, and went to where we calculate the amount of service, the amount of bus service that is in each county. And so that actually represents, 644 represents 43% of the total required match, and the other 57% is Lehigh County's contribution, and that represents the amount of service that is operated in each county. So that's the 644 of the 701 is that operating grant match. The second piece of it is the match to capital grants, and this is for the capital grants we use a mix of federal grants and then also some PennDOT grants that provide some of the match, and then the counties are required to match the PennDOT part of that. And what the county match is for the PennDOT, whatever the PennDOT contribution is, actually 3.3% of whatever PennDOT gives us for that. So there's a mix within our capital plan. Some of the projects use federal dollars, which pay for 80%, and then PennDOT pays 19.67%, and then the counties pay 0.33%. We have some elements of our capital plan that are kind of fully funded by PennDOT. So then the counties are putting in 3.3% of that, and then again that total is also allocated the same way as the operating grant, where Northampton County is putting in 43% of that, and then Lehigh County is putting in 57%. And so this year, the total match required was 131,000. So 57% of that, or 57,000 of that, is the 43%. That's the requirement of, or that's the request from for Northampton County. And so those two total to the 701,000. Just to give you an update too on separate from this, but certainly related, throughout the year there was a lot of effort put towards passing new transit funding legislation at the state level that would have enhanced the funding level that we receive in that operating grant. And that did not happen, but I don't know how closely people followed it, but then like SEPTA and the Pittsburgh Regional Transit submitted applications to get approval for certain flex dollars from PennDOT. They were approved for that. We also submitted a similar request, and we're still waiting to hear back from PennDOT on whether or not we are going to get those stabilization dollars that would help us to kind of stabilize certain things, stabilize our finances over the next couple of years, and kind of continue to work towards a longer-term transit funding bill. If we do get that stable, we're hoping to hear very soon about that. We do still anticipate having to make some service modifications. If we don't get that, we are starting to prepare for a pretty significant service cut in January. That could be as much as 20% of our service. We're hoping, since SEPTA and Pittsburgh did get approved for their requests, that we'll also get approved, and we don't have to do those pretty drastic things. Regardless of that, we are moving forward with fare increases this year on the bus system. This will be our first fare increase since 2014, so it is kind of time to update that fare structure. And then also on the shared ride service, we'll also be pursuing a fare increase as well. That'll be our first fare increase on that system since 2019. And those are just things that we kind of have to do periodically to they're obviously not things we like to do. It's difficult for people who rely on these services to pay those fares, but we have tried to keep them stable as long as we can. But it is something that, every few years you do kind of need to adjust those fares to try to maximize the amount of revenue coming in from fare revenue. So that's kind of things are still very up in the air. Still kind of waiting to hear. We're hoping for good news from PennDOT very soon, so we don't have to do the really drastic things. But I just wanted to kind of give you all a heads up that those are things that might be coming up in the next within the next several months. So.
Any questions?
So there have been no service cuts yet. There's just an anticipation if you don't get this funding.
Correct. Yeah, we haven't done anything yet. It would be in January if we do have to do it.
And what are the reasons why, this special financing or special revenue that you need is the only way to continue the services as is? I'm assuming expenses have gotten that drastic.
Right. And we have been, we were able to kind of build up some reserves over the years, and then also through COVID relief dollars, we were able to we would have been in this position probably 3 years ago, but we were able to kind of build up our reserves with COVID relief dollars that we got to kind of stretch things out. So basically, the expenses have outpaced the funding levels, and so we're kind of getting to that point where it's kind of saying, like, okay, we have to either pull back or right.
How much money are you seeking from the state?
The operating grant is for this current fiscal year is about $26 million.
You would hope that'd be something you'd be able to get every year going forward?
Yeah, I mean, that is something that we would expect. Like, if nothing changes, that would kind of be what we would be getting.
Self-sustain yourself.
Right.
Because I was going to say, this 700 to 1,000, this is a small contribution of what your overall operating budget is, correct?
Correct, right. It's it's required, if we don't get it, then we don't get the 26 million.
No,
but,
trust me,
but it's,
that's the
but
opposite
yeah,
of where I'm coming from.
Right.
I'm just trying to get an idea of how big the issues that you guys are facing.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Earlier this year, there was a memo or a proposal you were going to be reducing services in the Sleep Belt region. Is that still on the table? And that's independent of everything you just talked about. Is that correct?
No, that is
Was it
contingent on what we were just talking about. If we're looking at cutting service by 20 to 25%, it's going to be hard to not touch everything. There'll probably be some cuts on every route. We would try to not completely eliminate service to any other kind of what we call kind of our lifeline services that are to like northern Lehigh County, the Slate Belt, places where there's only like a few times a day already. we would certainly, we would try to make sure that we're maintaining something for people. But that was related to this.
So that's related. So
Yes.
if the PennDOT funding were to come through and you're not required to make the cut starting in January, then
Right. That,
that would be left intact as the services current?
correct,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Thank
we're always kind of looking at the services and making adjustments based
Anyway,
on,
right, yeah, yeah,
demand and
okay.
productivity and things like that. So changes may still happen just based on that, but it wouldn't be, like, if we did get the stabilization funding, it wouldn't be, we wouldn't be pursuing
Okay,
that
good. No,
scenario.
thanks for the clarification.
Right. Mhm. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, all right.
Any other questions about the authorities, boards, and commissions? Okay. All right, let me flip back here. Back to the general government program, page 25 in the white book. Is someone here to give an overall discussion of, just waiting for questions, okay?
Question?
Go ahead.
Who am I addressing my question? The intergovernmental revenue is shy of our projected is shy of our budget by about $17 million. Is that the intergovernmental money from the state that we are waiting on?
No, so the projections in the book were done before the state budget impasse. So none of the budget numbers are going to reflect that. The difference between projected and budget in the current year in regards to intergovernmental has to do with drawdowns in DCED and the drawdowns of grants there. So as we progress through, we budget the entirety of the grant, but if we're only progressing, say, 50%, then we will only project 50% of that revenue coming in, and the rest will carry forward into future years.
Wouldn't go too far because I have a feeling I'm going to keep.
Yeah, would it be better if you sat at the table and were comfortable? Because I think you're
Get
going to get
close,
up and
get
down a lot.
close. Okay, I guess I'll ask this general question. We are budgeting an expenditure of $89 million in general government program summary. Last year, we budgeted 110. That's a $21 million decrease. How are we justifying decreasing our spend by $21 million this year?
Actually, it's the same answer. So your expenditure total there, because you have the matching revenue of those grants, those pass-through grants in DCD, the expenditure is also the same way. So as we draw down in those grants, because we don't budget for the new ones until we officially receive grant agreements, the budget for those grants will go down as well.
All right, I'm gonna ask this kind of the same question one other way. Last year, I made a big to-do about trying to cut the operating expenses by, I think it was 2.5%. Because I said, in previous years, we never spend what we project. And, this year we're cutting 7%. So we're spending about $8 million less. We're not funding retirement portions of budgets. And this is, we're looking at 3,000 feet right now, looking at general government. I'm just trying to get a grip on how we put these budgets together. We are, if I go back through, we missed the mark last year by about $120 million, I think it was, from what we budgeted for versus what we project at right now. It's very hard to get really any fine precision idea of what's going to happen here if the budget versus what we're projecting are off by this much. I don't know what to expect at all.
Those big swings that you're looking at are generally in either those grant programs that I talked about before, or in special revenue funds. So in special revenue funds, we budget the entirety of the revenue, even if we aren't necessarily going to get it. And then we budget the entirety of the expense associated with that revenue. So in that case, well, you'll have a large budget in, say, health choices, and then you won't actually spend all of it. So your projection is significantly less than your budget.
Do we budget for all the employees' positions, even if we don't have them filled or we don't anticipate to fill them?
There are vacancy factors applied to 24/7 facilities.
I guess that's not my question. So let's say the jail, the full staff, if it was 100% staffed, is 200, but we only have 80. We budget for staffing 200 people in the prison?
Well, that's one of the places we apply a vacancy factor.
So if we budget that money doesn't get spent on the employees because they're not there, where does that money go?
Budgetarily, it goes back into the fund balance, back into the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I want to go back to Mr. McClure's executive budget message. And Brandon, the question I have for you, in Mr. McClure's message, he indicates that for Graysdale, did not have to make a general fund contribution to the home. Yet in January of this year, $8.5 million was moved illegally by the Director of Finance at the time. An additional $1.4 million was then added into a budget amendment. Where did those funds come from that then got moved to balance the loss at Graysdale for the?
First of all, I think you're misreading the budget message, John. What we're saying is we're not going to need a county budget, a county contribution to balance the Graysdale budget for 2026.
26.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that we didn't say that for 2025 in the message.
So you
And-
did,
and
you
we'll-
did
and
have
we'll-
to use general fund contributions in 2025,
we-
Graysdale.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
and then we'll talk about all of that when the
That's fine.
Graysdale
No,
budget
thank
comes
you.
up.
Thank
Yeah.
you for the clarification. Yeah, appreciate it.
Anything else?
I'm sorry, apologies. It was American Rescue Plan money, not county general fund funds.
Brandon, I'm looking, I think we're probably going to get into the meat of this later, but under the pass-through grants category, there's some significant decreases. Is that again coming from the state prior to the budget cuts, or is that the same? I'm on page 18 and 19.
That's the same thing as before, where we're drawing down on the grants that we've already been contracted with. So generally, the difference between this year's budget and next year's budget is going to be your projected for this year, because we're just drawing down the amount that we've already been granted for pass-through grants.
I'm going to ask, I don't know if you could do this, but, and I don't need it tonight, but is there a way to sort of take some of these categories and line them up in a different way that's in this book, like somewhat of a calendar? Because I realize that some of them are January, some of them are June, like they're different times of the year. So is there any other way to line that up? Because when I look at this and I see that, it doesn't help give me a picture of what's coming and what's not. And I realize the state is taking that out of consideration for right now.
Council has, this was an issue many years ago, which was researched by then Solicitor Leonard Zito, went on to be judge, and is in the DA's office now. Council does have the power to direct the form in which the budget is presented. You can do that. You can craft that through the administrative code. So if you have, as you just asked, Mr. Dunstein, if you have a specific way that council would like to see the budget presented differently than it has been historically presented in Northampton County. That is within council's power to do so. But I would recommend that in early next year, you start that dialogue with fiscal.
So, given that, if there's just a way to address some of these pass-through grants and some of those things this year in a different supplemental form, I would appreciate that, if there's any way possible.
We'll talk about that.
Because again, as we go through each one, it might become clearer, but. Anybody else? Anything else? Program summary, county contribution on page 24. No other questions? I'll move on. Council summary, county council on the financial stabilization, starting on page 27, and then 7 and 9 in the blue book. Brandon, what's the difference between the budgetary fund balance and the other financing uses categories? On page 27 in the summary.
So that's your financial stabilization amount. So the budgetary fund balance is how much that you would be projected to have at the beginning of next year. So that would be the 8,559,500. Other financing uses is going to be the amount that you theoretically would have at the end of next year, after you factor in the transfer out that's budgeted and the interest.
And the 11 million has been infused elsewhere in the budget. Is that a fair assessment, or because the decrease from 25 budget to 26 is $11 million in the fund balance? So, where's it going?
That's the amount that you budgeted to transfer into the general fund in 2025.
Anybody else have questions? Go ahead, Jeff.
What's the risk of not putting any money into retirement for this year?
I'm glad you asked that question. There's no risk to it. Currently, in the pension fund, we have $563,181,986.53. You want it again? I got it right the first year. Made me do this again. $563,181,986.53. We have in the OPEB trust fund 50. That's for the retiree health care. $58,296,110.55. For a total market value today of $621,478,097.08. So, what's been happening here is our pension fund at the beginning of the year was funded at 90.7%. It is now presumably, because it has grown, funded at 93%. Your average pension fund in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is funded at 77%. Actually, nationally, the average is 77%. So what you've had happen here is, we're on our way to $750 million. Everybody, so approximately 93 cents of everyone who is eligible now, as we speak today, everyone who's eligible now, 93 cents has been saved, right? Which means that the taxpayers over the last, I'll just take my last 8 years, have been overtaxed for the pension, and specifically to the tune of $103,469,300. That's 1 year of the 8 years general fund real estate property taxes. So 1 entire year of the taxes we collected for the general fund went into the pension fund. So what we're doing is we're going to rebalance that. It'll be back down to about, I would suspect, around 85% funded at the end of next year. And then, the next executive and next council can determine, as they're on their way to $1 billion pension fund, how much they want to put in on an annual basis. But just so the record is really clear, the retirement contribution to the pension fund over the last 7 years has been $80,754,700. And to the OPEB fund, which does not need any more money, the OPEB fund does not need any more money from county council ever again, because the people who are entitled to that benefit are capped as of 2010. So no one is entitled to retiree health care after 2010. Mr. Stofa ended it that year. That number over the last 7 years has been $22,714,600 that we have put into that fund. So no, I don't think there's any risk at all.
Is there anything stating that you can only not fund the retirement for 1 year at a time?
No.
That trend?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, when you get to that 85% number, I would start putting in $4.5 million a year, something like that. But you'd need to get it down.
I'm just asking the question because somebody told me that. But I think this is, you're basically saying we have too much money. And I think that seems a little too optimistic. I would like to maybe reduce 25% to go from 100% funding to zero. All the while, I thought we were going to have a $25 million gap of how we're going to fund our budget, and there's our $25 million. We don't fund the retirement. We don't fund the OPEB.
Well, so, Mr. Barron and I have been having this argument for years, that because one of the things that I've been saying for a long time, if people have been paying attention, is that we've been overtaxing our citizens. One of the reasons why I cut taxes in 2022. We had been hoarding in our fund balance $50 to $60 million on an annual basis. We've taken care of that. We're no longer overtaxing our residents in that way. But this is an argument Barron and I have had for many years, that the current taxpayers, all of us, are funding liabilities well into the future that should be shared with future taxpayers. Because the whole purpose of this is to spread out the liability over the years, not to have it disproportionately paid for by taxpayers now for future liabilities, which is what I have seen happen. So this will end that. It will reset the process, and the next executive and the next council can decide for themselves, do they want to go back to the old pattern? That'll be a decision they can make, or do they want to have a new pattern, which makes more rational sense?
I would make the argument, and listen, I respectfully disagree with the logic, because if you look at the hiring trends in this county, we are having a hard time attracting new employees, and we're having a hard time retaining the employees that we have. Every department comes in here, every single meeting, needing more money. Cost of living has increased, inflation has increased, wages have not increased with those increases. All the while, their pensions, they're increasing. If their wages go up, they would have to go up as well. So to argue that we have too much money in our retirement, I think is a very unusual way of looking at the situation that I find ourselves in, where we need to pay our employees more to be able to keep them and get new employees. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna decrease spending at Graysdale here by $10 million. I don't, you wanna talk about that? while
We'll
you're-
talk, we can talk about
Why don't we
Graysdale when
Get to
Graysdale's, yeah.
Okay. This is,
Any other question about the Financial Stabilization Fund? Moving on to the executive. Mr. McClure, you only have 2 staff? Is that accurate? It does. Does it make sense?
It's just the executive and the executive secretary. And all the other folks who work over there are under the Department of Administration.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? None? Move on to the Controller Department. Do you have full complement of staff at this time? I was looking at the staff, but you have, is it 9 and 1, did I just see? 1 part-time?
We have 8 staff members and 1 vacancy.
8 full-time and the 1 part-time, yes?
Nope, 1 vacancy. We don't have anybody. Oh, the solicitor's part-time, sorry. I was not, sorry, Chris, I wasn't counting the solicitor. You matter, just letting you know. Solicitors matter, right?
Don't you take that one. You can have those. Any other questions?
Go ahead.
So if you become fully staffed, you're losing 78,500. Is that the position?
That's the position.
So you won't be able to fill it with this budget?
I will not. They said that there's a potential that that money will get set aside and in another part of the budget, and we might be able to reclaim that if we need that staff member.
But as of right now, you do not.
As of right now, we're not hiring a new staff member.
Because of the budget.
Not necessarily. It's more about the staff that we have is still very new. They do take a lot of training, and so Stacy Duke is the one who trains the most, and we are trying to train other staff members to be collaborative and work more as a team to understand how to do the audits and teach each other. And then Stacy Duke comes in and kind of does cleanup, you know. But a major portion of the training is put on the shoulders of Stacy, and she has the most experience in the office, and I doubt we could find another person with 18 years' experience that would come in at that level. And that wouldn't be a $73,000 position anyway.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks. Solicitors Department? Any questions? Okay, moving on. Human Resources? Go ahead.
Human Resources, your budget changes to draw down for the daycare operating at Graysdale. Is the ongoing funding for that still in Human Resources? You had originally set aside, I think you had last year moved like 870,000.
It was moved into human resources last year, and yes, the budget that we have in human resources for the daycare is what is expected to be the operating budget for the daycare.
Which is how much for this year?
500,000.
500,000. And where in the detail does that money actually roll up then?
68999.
Pooled program operating cost?
Okay, so you're showing just in 2025 an $800,000 budget, and 2026 you're intending to expend 500,000 of that. Is that all the daycare money then? Is that a line item? The pooled program operating cost, that's all daycare?
Yes. Yes.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Pooled miscellaneous employee benefits, could you explain what that entails? Because we see a $10,000 decrease in that as well.
That was money that we have for training and development, and we looked at our last couple of years of budgets and just aligned it more to what we had been spending.
Training, not actual benefits.
Correct.
Thank you.
Question, if I may, on the daycare, the contract we have with the provider, because you have a third-party provider operating daycare, is the $500,000 going completely to that operator? And what kind of contract do we have with them? Is it a fixed cost? Is it a multi-year contract? Can you give me some?
Yeah, that would be more of a Graysdale question, because I wasn't involved directly with the contract. They just kind of moved the money into my budget because in case we opened up the Graysdale daycare to other employees. So that's why they didn't keep it with Graysdale's budget. But I don't know the answer to the specifics of the contract.
Contract for the daycare?
I think that without having it in front of me, I think it's best if we go over that when we go over the Graysdale budget, so we can specifically answer your questions accurately.
I'd like to get a copy of that contract if it's possible.
Yes.
Any other questions? Any other questions for Human Resources? Next, we have Fiscal Affairs Summary, and all of Fiscal Affairs will take piece by piece. So who's the rep for Fiscal Affairs? Want a comfy chair?
I keep noticing, very heavy drops in expenses. Procurement, we spent 371,000 in 2024. We budgeted 391, but we're only projecting 327 for 2025, but then we're gonna budget 303,000. 14% decrease in assessments, 6% decrease in disbursements. All these steady drops, I asked for 2.5% decrease across the board last year, and it was impossible. We have very extreme drops this year. Are we gonna be able to comment to how we're gonna make these cuts?
Unfortunately, when you look at the summary page like that, that is the total expenses, so that includes your salaries and fringe benefits. So the big drops you're seeing this year, especially on the summary pages, is the retirement and OPEB coming out of everyone's budget. So in that sense, it might be better to look at each page individually and look at the operating if you're trying to refer back to the 2% that you.
Thank you.
You can hang out there for a minute, I have a question. Another direction. Can you talk about the long-term debt and give us a little bit of the summary of where we're at, in terms of the increases and decreases of both the bond and the GISA interest and principal? Can you
let me just get
give us
to-
a like snapshot of where we are and what that encompasses? Because how many different bonds out there that we're servicing, how much debt are we servicing?
I'd have to get you the total. I don't have that off. Actually, that's in the front of the book.
Okay, because I was just looking on page 18, but go ahead, tell me where to,
you're
which
good.
book, blue?
In the white would be the debt service page. Excuse me. Page 21 in the white book is your total debt service. So the 13 bond just dropped off, so we're down to the 19 bond and the 25 bond. And this wouldn't be in fiscal affairs, but there's a capital lease over in 911. That's all we're down to at this point. And everything should be paid off by 2041.
Seems so far away and probably not. I don't want to think about that. So this 2022 is is the radio, that's Astro 25 system upgrade, right?
That was the capital lease for a portion of the P25 project that started in 2022.
And then the 2025 has the difference in that, correct? The general application
That's a different
bond?
portion of that project that I'm sure.
Any other questions? Financial planning and control, page 35 and 18. No questions? Assessment summary? Oh, wait, no, revenue, sorry. So your projected increase is based on what? Not that it's much, but just taxes alone? Yeah, taxes alone, right?
You're just asking about specifically the revenue side?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the increase there is for your property tax, just based on the assessment, tax-based growth.
Any other questions? Sure.
What would 1 mil equal?
Offhand, that is approximately 9 million, but I believe I have the exact number in the front. Approximately 9.2.
Before you walk away. So we're decreasing the budgetary fund balance to 3.3 million, correct?
We're decreasing the amount of the fund balance that we're using to balance the budget by that amount.
We're only using 5.5 this year.
When you mean 2026? Yes, yes.
So if we're being overtaxed, or if we're taxing our citizenry too much, why are we using our fund balance to balance the budget?
That is
Question?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. So I've ended the era of overtaxation, and I did that by having balanced budgets with no tax increases for 7 years, including this one, and a tax cut in 2022. So we're bringing this to where it should be. You have your financial stabilization fund. I'm answering your question. You have your financial stabilization fund plus the fund balance, which is giving us 2 months of general fund balance in order to meet general fund emergencies, which is what the standards call for.
Trying to be very polite, so don't, I get
I'm
it.
trying to be polite too. I'm just explaining to you.
If we keep going this route, eventually we're not gonna have a fund balance, would you agree?
Yes,
How are we being overtaxed if we have to eat into our savings to balance the budget?
we're not eating into our savings.
Sure we are.
No, what you're doing is balancing your budget with the tax
Savings.
revenues that have been generated beyond your expenses. That's what you're doing.
We have revenue, and we have expenses, and
Right.
we have savings.
But fund balances are annual. They don't roll over,
But our
they're
financial
annual.
stabilization fund isn't, correct? We had drained that quite a bit last year. There's less in there now. Every year, we're spending more and more of the money that we
Well, I
use.
think the financial stabilization fund is about where it was last year, isn't it?
Sure, we're now spending, we're not spending any money on our retirement, which obviously is not sustainable either. We have to eventually fund that again. It's like we're finding every little trick we can to keep the balanced budget balanced, but it's not balanced. We are having to not fund the retirement, or take $10 million out of here, or take $5 million out of there.
Well, if you're
It's not sustainable.
I understand and appreciate your point. And if you have a fund balance, it means you've exceeded your revenues with respect to your expenditures. Okay,
Did we do that this year?
yes.
Thank you.
Brandon, are you the acting fiscal director at this time? Who is the acting fiscal director?
There isn't one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, who can answer questions about staffing then? Would that be you, or because I noticed that there's different parts of this, like, that has salaries attached to it, so there's certain, like, under disbursements, how many people are in that department? Because how many people work in fiscal affairs, in which departments?
Well, I think Brandon can answer that.
Okay. The non-acting, but doing a great job, by the way. It's been a pleasure so far, so come on up and keep going. I told him, I offered him a comfy chair, he didn't want one, but
What's the question, though? I think
Well, I'm looking at, I was getting ready to move into the next one. I see disbursements as overtime wages, salaries, full-time, union. So what is that department? How many people work there?
Oh,
'Cause-
disbursements, okay.
Yeah, like,
He could tell you what disbursements.
I mean, because revenue is kind of, and then, revenue has, so how many people work in each little section? Maybe,
Okay.
and over.
So revenue has 13 staff members, including all of their management. They currently have one vacancy.
Okay.
Disbursements has 5 positions, but only 4 are staffed, and that's kind of where they're staying.
Okay.
And that is payroll, accounts payable, and our accounting manager. And those are the 2 you've asked about so far. Do you want every division? Yeah. That's true.
Tell me where there's vacancies and where there's some attrition, so you're not filling vacancies as they come up? Sorry, I took my mic off.
Some are, some aren't. Depends on where it's needed.
Oh, here we go, okay. The assessment division is 20, is that same full complement, or have we lost?
They have 1 vacancy that they're currently in the process of, but that also includes GIS. So that 20 is actually 16 in assessment and 4 from GIS.
And most of these are in-house, front-facing staff, right? Except the assessors, do they go out in the field?
That's correct.
Any other questions? Disbursement, assessment? Since we don't do an overall regularly planned and/or scheduled assessment, how are they done? Plenty of county residents ask, because most of them put a shed on their property and go, why'd I get a tax assessment? But like, all right, but can you, are there certain places flagged, or is it new? I mean, obviously, new structures are, but what about existing?
You pull a permit, and it implicates the potentiality of having your property reassessed.
And that's it, other than new construction?
Yeah. And I think you were asking about the common level ratio as well.
I didn't say that, but go ahead.
But I think you were, that's sort of what you were asking about, and I think Brandon can explain that to you.
People go, why, they go, I literally hear, quote unquote, I put a shed on my property and my taxes went up. So like, it would be nice to have the right answer to that question someday.
Right. So he explained it correctly that normal day-to-day assessments are done based on permit pulls. Then there's the county-wide reassessment, last done in 1995, not planned or budgeted for next year. County level ratio is currently at 17%, I was told today, and that is a comparison of market price to 1995 value, and that is used during assessment appeals.
So market price to 1995 value, is that what you said?
That's what was explained to me today, yes.
What percentage of appeals go in their favor versus ours?
That I don't have an answer to. I would have to get that from assessment.
Assessment is a very nasty, well-discussed term at CCAP all the time. Is there any way to do it and not hurt the long-standing existing taxpayers who have been, like that gentleman that was here the other night who has a 120-year-old home?
That is a loaded question that I would not be able to answer.
Well, maybe we'll have you come in another time and have a session on it. But he's, okay, thanks. GIS, any questions? Procurement? Most of these are staffing related, correct? Why did procurement have a food budget? It's gone, but it's just a whopping $25 2 years ago. Why did they have why'd they get food and nobody else?
We'll investigate that and get it back to you.
Recorder of Deeds? Information Services? Where are we with our contract for our current vendor? Why are you shaking your head? Oh, okay. You're looking at me like.
And I don't. I think we're in the second extension, but I'm not sure. I need to get that answer for you. I'm not certain.
And the second extension is how long?
Like 5 years, but we're in it somewhere. We're into it somewhere. But let me get that answer for you, to be precise.
County Records Improvement? And Administration Summary?
I'll ask the obvious question, but it might be because I'm looking at the summary page. Why the such drastic decrease in revenue? Or 4.5 million projected in 20, or budgeted in 25, projected as 3.9. This year, we're gonna budget 1.8.
The big change there is the transfer of farmland preservation from administration over to Public Works. So you're seeing the revenue from that go to zero, and you'll see a big increase over in Public Works.
While we're talking about farmland preservation, I'm looking at the page 20 of the white book with full-time staff. We had 3, now we have 0. Is that because over somewhere else on this
They're
book,
moving,
it's gonna
yeah.
show me it's
That is
3
correct.
people?
If you go to Parks and Rec, right, I'm not sure if it's on the same page or the next page, you'll see them increase by 3.
Thank you.
Administration and Administration Services? Farmland Preservation, Summary?
Who's gonna be writing the grants for farmland preservation now? And does this department still maintain its importance? I know, Mr. McClure, you prided yourself on the amount of farmland preservation. Do you see this as just a change in division and department, or is there a change in structure as well?
So it's my vision that all of the green programs, if you will, should be under one umbrella. And that's why we moved it over there. Farmland is in no way going to be diminished. And I think, in fact, it's been reinvigorated. Maria Benzoni did a great job. Most of the acreage preserved in Northampton County, she had a hand in. But I do think it was time for a change. And with Mr. Shaw now being the Farmland Preservation Administrator, I think we're really going to have a very robust, more robust program than we already have.
Oh, he's got big shoes to fill, but so he's the one that's going to be in charge of the
Yes.
department? Thank
Yep,
you.
and he is here.
Appreciate it.
So all these zeros mean it's moving into another category somewhere. So we'll be discussing that later then, or?
Parks Department.
So can I just skip over all of this
Yes.
for right now and move
Right.
along?
Right? Yeah, correct.
That'll, To be continued, that helps. Conservation District is here, but it's not. Say that again, John?
Conservation District?
No, it's out, it's just in the book to reflect that it was, and we've
They're
emptied the
independent.
coffers.
Yeah, it's only there to show the history from 2024 to make the book ballots.
So they're fully transferred over and on their own? Okay. Weights and measures? We still have the same level of staffing, right? Is it like three folks? How are you doing?
Good evening. Yes, still three of us, yep. Any questions?
Did you get everything you asked for in your budget?
Yes, yep.
Any questions? Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you all do. Election summary? Mr. Kamani, how are you doing? Did I wake you? I'm sorry. Were you taking a little rest back there? You're allowed to rest now, right? I just had a question about, I guess it's the election grant. Are you, what are you, I mean, it looks like it's decreased a little bit, but I see what it's contingent upon.
The
Do we have a decrease in registered voters? Is that why
The
the
grant
amount?
has actually increased from last year. We were at 1.15 last year, we are at 1.17 this year. Now, the grant runs from July 1st through June 30th of the following year. So it encompasses the general election from this year and the primary election of next year.
So is that the
current
reason
grant.
for the difference of the numbers that, because you have it as a solid million?
Yeah, the budget doesn't reflect that.
There's two reasons for that. First is because it spans years. We're not 100% sure how much is going to spend on the general election versus the primary. So in that, it's kind of an estimate. And then the other half is that this was prepared before that number was officially given to us, that it was going to go up to the number that he said.
So do you have to state, like, here's what I'm going to use it for and expend it in the same year? Or is it allowed to roll over? Like, how does that?
We
grant
have
work compared to our
9
others?
categories that we are allowed to put into that money into. And whatever we spend in the general, whatever's left over goes into the primary. And anything we do not spend gets sent back to the state as a clawback. And the pool is $45 million for the entire Commonwealth. And based on your number of registered voters, that's how the numbers are broken down. Who gets what? Any money that is clawed back by the state is then dispersed across everybody. Okay, so whatever we do not spend, we would have to send back, and then that money left over would go back to the pool and would be dispersed between the 67 counties in the Commonwealth.
So where are you requesting or focusing that we're spending our grant money on? What are you asking for when you're writing the grants? Or what are we receiving it for?
We receive it for, and I can give you the categories, payment for canvass and pre-canvass of mail-in ballots, physical security and transparency costs for that pre-canvassing and canvassing, post-election procedures required under the Pennsylvania Election Code. Number 4 is list maintenance activities, voter address program, 5-year non-voter mailings, et cetera. Number 5 is the printing of ballots. Number 6 is training costs for our poll workers. Number 7 is payment of the staff for the poll workers on election day. Number 8 is secure preparation, transportation, storage, and management of voter apparatuses, tabulation equipment, and required polling place materials. And then the final category is the cost of the County Board of Elections duties, our office's duties related to processing voter registrations.
So there's no money allocated for actual equipment
No.
upgrades, and
No.
not maintenance either?
Maintenance, yes, but voting systems, like voting machines, we would not be allowed to apply that to a grant. Now, we can buy, 2 years ago, we bought the ballot sorter that we purchased because that is something that helps us prepare our mail-in ballots securely. So that falls into that bucket.
And those scanners do as well, correct?
Yes.
But what about an actual machine or an actual e-poll book? What's the cost of an e-poll book right now?
I do not have that number off the top of my head.
And a machine
The last
as
time they
well?
bought them, it was before my time, so. And machines, same thing. They were bought previously in 2019, so I would have to look that number up.
I think we paid 2.9, but
Per machine?
No, total, I think, total, yeah.
what are we at?
For the machines, yes, was that the
300
machines
We have
and the poll
320
book?
machines.
2.9 for the machines and the poll book, or do
No,
we
no,
do a
just,
separate
just,
purchase on that?
no, separate purchase. Yes, just a separate purchase.
So do we need anything? I mean,
Nope. No, we have reserves that we keep just in case.
and as part of the cost, are a contract with ES&S, like, is that included in, and how long does that extend? Life of the machine or so many years?
I believe off the top of my head, it is a 10-year service contract. And we are, what, 7, whatever, 7? Yeah, so there is a service
2019?
contract that we are under. The exact date, I don't currently know.
2019 we bought them?
Yes, I believe so.
2019, right? Because 2018 is when the mandate came in, and then, yes, it was 2019, because that's the year my kid graduated, I remember that. So it's not even at 10 years.
Yes, and you know, my view of this is, and I'd be interested to see what Chris thinks. As long as we are using them, we'll need to have our service contract with the ES&S.
But I'm just wondering, because how's the life of the machine so far? Like you're saying,
Yeah, we haven't had to replace them yet.
Nope.
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 Maintenance is fairly easy, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
any other questions? And then your operating costs are kind of low compared to the rest of your budget. That's interesting. But why is that? Under conduct of elections, because it's all infused elsewhere, or? I left. The operating cost is only 153,600 total for the conduct of elections. That's all it costs us?
That's the amount of the general fund that is used to operate the election. Like, so once you take out all of what the grant is paying for, that's what's left.
I see, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions from anybody else, since I'm monopolizing? Next, Ag Extension. Emergency Management Services. We'll start with the summary. Your finger's on the button. Just go.
I
Just-
love asking the question from the summary page. This one's the most alarming, but I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. 1.792 is budgeted last year, million. We have 141,000 budgeted this million for emergency management services. I'm sure there's an obvious explanation.
Wait, show me where you are, John, and what line item, I'm sorry.
On the emergency management service summary, the revenue, intergovernmental,
Oh, okay.
So that was a one-time grant that we got. We're completing the work
radios?
on that this year, so it'll go away next year.
then 391,000 was spent in 2024. Or, I'm sorry, brought in revenue, intergovernmental. So if that one time was 1.8, and we got $391,000 in 2024. Why is 2026 half of that?
No, that's the difference between, there was an additional grant in there that we received in 911, if I'm not mistaken.
Do we have a sense of what those grants were for? Can we get some clarification on that?
Even the fees and fines, there's a pretty significant difference. Just trying to make sense of where all this money comes from.
And it's easier to look at as you go each
Alright,
individual
I'll wait
one,
my time.
rather than trying to look at it all in summary, because each of those things will get broken down on those pages.
He could come down, because we're going to ask him questions, so you might as well.
Good evening.
I almost said good morning. It's not. Good evening. Can you answer some of Mr. Gafredo's questions while we keep?
Yeah, actually, as you get into the other budgets and drill it
You wanna
down.
go that
Go to
way?
Enhanced 911, we'll start there.
Let's go.
Flip to the actual, or
there's-
you want to stay on the summary?
Say what?
You flip to the enhanced 911, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So part of the intergovernmental, that is, if you see that it was 963,000 and now it's zero, that is part of the COPS grant that we applied for with the P25 with the Montana Mountain. So that was a congressional grant, so we're not getting one of those next year, so that's why you'll see them flux depending on the federal grants. Some of the others in the summary are for like hazard mitigation project. When we rewrote the plan, we got 210,000. There's a elevation project, as you'll see later on, that's going on that will cause that to fluctuate. A lot of them are one-time grants or grants over 3 years that we got to administer for that.
Is that because that was a one-time grant, or?
The COPS grant was a one-time grant. Some grants are yearly and others are as you apply and funds are available.
Are you pursuing any other types of grants at this
Oh,
time, or
all the time.
awaiting?
All the time. LSA, remember I was here, so we're
Right.
doing for LSA. We always go after a pipeline grant, and we do our normal yearly hazmat grants. And we also go after all the interconnectivity for 911 funds grants as much as we can gather on that.
How many times we ask the same questions every year that we
It's
forget
all
the
right.
answers to?
I just rewatch it, and then I just, no,
Well, that's good.
no.
And, you know, I'm going to ask him every year, because if you think I remember what I did last October to this October, wait till you get to be my age, and then you could talk
At least
about
we
it.
appreciate your kindness, the way you answer.
On the 911, you asked about the fees and that. That's the 911 fee. And the only reason I bring that up is because I always look for council support and all that. CCAP is proposing a $2.20 fee.
And it's set to sunset
And
when? Real soon. I just read
2026.
that.
2026, halfway through the year. So that fee is what we get from the state in this 83% fund, and then the other 15 gets put into the interconnectivity where we pull grants. So I think it's over 100 million, a shortfall in the state, at least in the report that I kind of reviewed today. But if you're able at least to get it more than $1.95, it's more than, you know, I know their CCAP was shooting for $2.20.
2.2, yeah.
Yeah. And as that increases, that then would lower our county contribution for the 911 budget.
And when would that take effect? Whenever they propose it? And I don't
I
even
think
know.
it sunsets in '26, so as soon as they do it,
June.
we'll probably get like, I think the way they did it last year was like a half a year, or the last quarter of the year it took effect. It took a little bit to kick in. Only because the phone carriers got to actually do a lot of changing in their billing and collection.
Call your congressman, senators.
These state reps on those. Be all the state reps
Oh,
on the
that's right,
220.
state reps
Yeah, that's all
and,
state.
state reps and state senate. Good
Yep.
luck. Enhanced 911 interconnectivity. Emergency management. Oh, sure, Jeff.
Is this where this P25 conversation would happen, correct?
P25, the maintenance of the system is in the 911 budget. Some of the project is in the different org where the COVID dollars are, or should I say the rescue fund dollars. And the bond project, Brandon will probably tell you exactly what account that one's in, but that is actually, has to be kept separate, so.
So we have the $12.6 million to fund the radios for the fire departments.
Mhm.
But the police departments would have to have these as well,
Correct?
and ambulance corps.
That's correct.
This number is probably closer to, in municipalities, like $40 million to fund all these radios.
I would have to look at it because there is a, with volume purchase, depending on how you do it, there is significant discounting depending on the vendor if you're purchasing that large of amount, so. Why buying a radio individually, I would say on the Motorola side is anywhere from 10 to 11 right now, but if I decided to buy 100 or 1,000 of them, that price would significantly be less.
So if all would make the request to the county and the county became the purchaser for all those, all the municipalities would get the discount,
There would be some kind of discount realized from the
rather
vendor.
than having
Yeah.
each one of those
Yeah,
do
I
it
can't
themselves.
speak for what it is, yeah. I know some of the departments are doing AFG grants and where they're looking to get that number with a bulk purchase through the federal grant that's open right now.
Do you know of any counties that are signing for those federal grants? Do you think that if a county were to apply for that grant instead of coming?
We're not eligible for AFG, it's the county. I kind of looked at it just to figure, but it has to be actually a fire department that applies for the federal fire grant.
Well, couldn't we write a letter, I guess we couldn't write a letter in support of anybody
They'll probably
who
look for letters of
applies?
support. I get them throughout the year and during this grant cycle. I know when Easton did the AFG, we sent a letter of support to any department, that's transitioning, we give them a letter of support to say, yeah.
But it sounded like earlier when this gentleman presented that they all have to transition, correct? Like, well, except for Bethlehem, right? Because Bethlehem owned the system, so they had them, they had them.
They were already, but they actually upgraded all their entire radios to our requirements.
But we have the old band still operational.
The old band is still patched, and there is no end date on that until we see how departments transition. It's kind of the theory, you gotta build it, and then, it's the same thing when we went from VHF to 500. I know, I've been here long.
So I think based on the last time that you, I don't want to cut you off if you had other questions.
No, I'm
We could-
just thinking.
So based on the last time you were here and we talked about it, counties' radios are covered by all the grants that we've agreed to so far.
Some of the county radios are either covered by the department, but we also are going after a grant to replace some of the radios, yes. And we'll have to eventually budget in to take advantage of the system.
So then how do we address what this gentleman stated this evening in his, courtesy of the floor? Because that's a lot of money and a lot of people that don't have radios. So how are we poised to help them? Because the patch you said is going to stay open until everybody gets their radios?
Yeah.
So that means we can't convert over to the new system, right?
We are converting into patches, and there are some departments that will be utilizing the system. Police are converting over. I think when I did the number, there was 22 fire departments that were in the process of converting over. It comes down to, if you're going to fund it, then I'll gladly assist you and figure out how to do that project and do it.
Me?
Well,
No, I'm asking
Yeah.
because you're the
yeah.
expert in this.
Well,
I'm
that's what
not.
I'm saying. If the funds are there, believe me, if, you always ask, is everything in the budget? Well, I get a
What was
wish
that
list,
number?
but
12.7 million.
That's just for fire.
But police are municipal employees, correct? There's no volunteer police
No.
forces. So that's a municipal cost, but some of these, how many fire companies are,
there's 39 departments, including the 2 rescue squads.
but how many are municipal owned? Like
I'd have to go
Bethlehem,
through. It
Easton?
varies.
Because those cities would bear the cost, correct?
I would say you may be looking a little more than half and half that are municipal run. It depends on the department. There's ones that are 100% independent, from the municipality and only receive a donation, and there's others that are still volunteers, but 100% funded by the municipality. You'd have to look at how some of them are chartered, and, I mean, I can,
So I guess I'm asking, have you discussed this with them, or no? Yes? no?
they've always discussed and looked for grant opportunities and stuff for funding, but right now, our funding is to get the system built before we can start looking at that.
And you told us the timeline before, I forget what that is.
The expansion, they're looking to hopefully have completed by the end of '26, as long as everything goes smooth.
Anything else? Let's see, Hazmat Act, oh, or is there anything else under emergency management? I veered off into the radios, but. Staffing, how's your staffing?
For emergency management, we're emergency management's at full complement.
Not to backtrack, but what about 911?
911, we are out of 64, we have 54 TCs, and out of 12 supervisors, we have 11.
Seems to be trending in a better direction than last year, is it not?
It is. It's ebb and flow, you know, we get really close, and then a lot of them that we're getting is in the training portion. They're getting them out, I hate to say not getting them out earlier, but then realizing earlier that it might not be a profession for them before we really invest a lot of training in them.
Turnover rate a little higher than desired, I guess, with people that come apply, fill the position and train them,
Yeah,
and then they don't stay that long.
It's, our pool isn't as large as it used to be from the response agencies, so we're getting people from other professions that want to try it out, see what it is, and the reality is, it's not an easy job. And it's nights, it's weekends, it's holidays, so.
Question? Hazmat Act 165? Hazard mitigation assistance? Task force equipment. This is the Northeast Pennsylvania group?
Our portion of the budget for the task force is a placeholder for equipment that we have, so when we get a piece of equipment from the task force or an asset, its financial value has to be booked to a budget, so this is where that gets dumped into or recorded to.
And then the Northeast Pennsylvania Task Force itself.
Assuming a grant was spent and then we're not getting this year,
Are you talking about in the task force?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Northeast Task Force 1, I am the vice chair of the Northeast Task Force, so I'll switch hats on this one. These grant cycles, we're still spending down 2023 grant. They've just received 2024 grant funds, and 25 is being applied and waiting. So it's always kind of like a year behind on the award, and they have to put those grant funds to specific targeted areas. And I don't know the numbers exactly, but you have to put like 20% into law enforcement, 15 into election security or soft target. So they put different categories. Just remember, out of the mere less than $1 million that our task force region gets for 10 counties, it is split and projects are picked out between those. So there might be one year where Lackawanna may be doing a fairly substantial project, and then next year it's Pike's turn, and then Northampton and Monroe. They kind of cycle depending on the project. A lot of this task force stuff, a lot of your SWAT teams or your ERT teams, depending on what they're calling themselves, a lot of their equipment funding comes out of here, some of their training, and also all of your Northeast Terrorism Task Force bomb squads from Scranton, Allentown, and Bethlehem. Their bomb suits and some of their equipment is supported through the task force dollars. And also some of the assets that you'll see, like our command truck that was at the county fair, that is a task force asset, you know, lighting, stuff. Some of the lights that we prepare and that we see that we use during the judges and polling drop-off for the stuff, a lot of those resources and assets were provided by Northeast Terrorism Task Force. So unfortunately, we have to do a threat assessment. As long as it matches the grant cycles and everything falls in the federal list of approved stuff, then we can get it. So we can't necessarily use task force funds for particular things are prohibited unless, you know, they have a specific list that we got to sit with Northeast Terrorism Task Force with that. And there are 7 task forces throughout the state.
Answered.
So I guess I have one more question. I don't know. I want to know how we can help collaborate with some of these local fire departments to determine state and federal funds that could be used to access this stuff. Because I realize the county doesn't have to pay for all of it for them. We're not an ATM machine. The municipalities have to have a contribution. But if there's any kind of funding from the state or the feds that we could
Yes.
be made aware of, or
Yep.
they could be, that we could,
I can send you a list of the current grants. Right now, I know the state fire grant, there was 13 departments that didn't complete their application last week that I've sent notice out to.
I think I got a,
You probably got
Heads up
another,
on that
a
from
nasty
CCAP.
letter, yep. And that was all sent out to the departments, and I know they extended the deadline to this Friday. So I know some of the departments that I emailed me back, thanking me for reminding them. Some of them had just applications they didn't complete that were holding there, but there was about 10 of them that didn't even do an application.
so does that mean if they don't complete it, that nobody gets anything?
Nope, just the department that didn't apply,
Okay,
yep.
so it doesn't penalize
Yeah,
them?
it does not penalize the other departments. And some do take advantage of it and some don't.
I'm just
I
checking.
believe a lot of fire companies are kind of working together.
Yes.
And I believe we are one of those companies that are working.
Yeah, I know what we call our Sector 2, which is Eastern Region, they were working on an AFG grant that they let me know about, and I know the Sector 3, the Slate Belt region, was working on an AFG grant together with, and taking advantage of some of those federal funds that are out there.
Are there people that are soliciting services to help fire companies do this? And like, do you think they would be worth our time to like have fire companies be able to contact us and like, hey, who can we reach out to? Who can we team up with to help apply for these grants? Kind of walk them through, because I can only imagine there's a lot of people out there that this is a little bit over their head as far as, or maybe not. Maybe they're used to doing this type of stuff all the time.
There is, I mean, we put out the grants, and they can apply if they need help or they have questions. We try to, and this is with any of our grants through Emergency Management or 911, our Hazard Mitigation Recovery Manager will usually assist. Even municipalities, when there's like brick grants and stuff like that, they'll assist as much as we can, letters of support. We can't really say this grant writer is better than that grant writer, especially when it comes to that they're hiring them for hire. Some departments make out well when they go and they write it. I know, talking to Chief in Easton, the city took the lead for that area for the departments, and they did the grant for their, working on an AFG grant for that.
Don't we have anybody in the county that can help with that?
Grant writers.
Okay. Thank you. General government cost allocation, page 84 in the white book. Bless you. Okay. Next, we have Public Works. 24. No questions. Moving into Public Works Administration Summary. Public Works Administration. Insect and Pest Management. Solid Waste and Recycling.
Charging for fees anymore in that?
Yeah, can we talk about that, the budget, the fees, fines, charges, et cetera?
So that line item is the annual voluntary contribution that Waste Management had been making to our program. They haven't given us any indication that they are going to cease providing that contribution, but we wanted to budget conservatively.
While you're up there, the budgetary fund balance, I see we didn't hit our budgeted projection from 2025. Is that just a carryover of what you plan to bring in revenue this year, since you didn't get it in 2025?
Are we talking about the solid waste and recycling?
Yeah,
or-
I'm sorry, is that where we're at, right? Solid
Yes.
waste? Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the contributions that we've been receiving from the landfill had been exceeding what we've been spending on our the household hazardous waste event, the shred events, and our the grants that we give out to the municipalities for their electronic recycling.
Since you're up there, can I double back to the insect management?
Sure.
It didn't identify the spotted lanternfly, and I realized we had a few grants a few years ago, so is that under the pest control? Is that infused or not really?
It's not part of the insect pest program.
Okay. So are all those funds done, gone, or?
I don't think that was ever incorporated into this org. Maybe it was something that the Penn State Extension might have been helping with.
Parks and Recreation Summary? Yes, sir.
So Parks Recreation Equipment, 2026 budget, $0. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. So we've spent a lot of money in capital equipment upgrades with the Parks Department over the past couple of years. So their fleet of equipment is in relatively good shape overall.
Parks and Recreation, capital is for the buyout of 5 leased trucks.
That's correct. We've been participating in a leasing program with Enterprise for several years. We're at the point now where the first batch of vehicles that we had leased, we can now buy out those leases.
You guys aren't budgeting any money for motor vehicle repairs? We're not gonna have to.
Since you're gonna own them, right?
Well, we still gotta change the oil, still gotta replace things that break, like, it's like.
Where are you seeing that? I don't believe that that's the
Parks and
case.
Recreation, page 131. That's where
You
I'm
have,
looking.
you have pooled transportation, is it all fall into that, because
Yeah,
I
correct.
see a $10,600 reduction in the overall budget? I'm assuming that's where.
That's due to the pooled number is going down because the number of vehicles that we're leasing is going down since we're doing the buyout.
How many vehicles does the Parks Department currently own and operate right now?
Roughly 9.
So that's a good question. Where's your maintenance cost?
Well, it's pooled transportation, it's all just lumped into that pooled transportation line of $116,000. We spent $124,000 last year, reducing it by 8%. Or no, we're reducing from the budget of 2025, which was 127, but we only spent 124, so a little less than 8%.
Where is the figure for the buyouts for the leases?
That's in the capital motor vehicles, 18,000.
What were, I guess it's kind of the same question, so it just doesn't add up. I get it, we're trying to cut spending, but I feel like it might be a little drastic. So we have $0 in for equipment, the 18,000 is gonna buy out all the leases, and we're gonna reduce our spending on our maintenance by another 10,600. Seems like we're shorting ourselves about, all in all, close to $150,000 compared to last year.
The reduction in the transportation pooled line item, that's due to the leasing costs going down. We're not reducing the amount that we're planning to spend on the motor vehicle repairs.
Thank you.
Mike, how many vehicles are you buying out?
5.
Open Space Initiative County Parks. Go ahead.
I'll just, the obvious 50% reduction in expenses, I'm assuming I'm trying to read here quick before Lori moves on. Anyone to give a brief summary of why we're spending? You know, we spent 2.1 last year is what we actually project to spend. We budgeted 2.6, we're gonna budget 1.3. It's a significant reduction.
The biggest reason for that is this was the org that we used primarily to fund the construction of the new maintenance barn at Louisemore Park. That's since been completed, so that's dropping out of the budget. And in addition to that, we're also advancing a lot of the projects that are currently being funded through grants, so that expenditure is dropping this year as well.
When we purchase parks, does that come out of this budget or somewhere else in the budget?
That's primarily the OSI environmentally sensitive.
Did we do a Hugh Moore disbursement this year? We did? In July? Did we? I know, I'm trying to remember when we did it, and or if I wasn't.
I believe it was at our last retirement board meeting, which we approved it.
Okay. OSI Municipal Parks? Open space, environmentally sensitive. Act 13 Environmental Initiative. How long will that be available? I mean, is there an end date for that stuff? No? Well, no jinx. You didn't have to say that second part. Livable landscapes? Well, I guess I'll ask it here, because I see the contribution to open space initiative is not included in this budget proposal. So can you speak to the policy behind that, Mr. McClure? Because I see that popping up here.
Evening. So over the past 8-10 years, we've been extremely fortunate to get funding for all of our OSIs. We've now have about $1.5 million of grants in hand for our OSI County Park programs. Those need to get closed out and completed. We've funded over 30-some different mini park projects, I would say, and there's still an excess amount that needs to get closed out in those areas. Same with the livable landscapes. We've been successful of providing grants out to our municipalities. When we looked at what we have, we still have a very large amount of grants that need to get closed out, completed. Those are normally a 2 to 3 year time frame. Really why that is because the first year when we award them, they are still applying for state funds. They won't hear that until November, December of that same year, really wasting 1 full year. So those projects or the grants that we give out are really not starting for a full another year. So when you see this, there's a lot of that in there. Also, we have a grant from DCNR that we were awarded this past year to update our livable landscapes plan. That plan is now over a decade old. We've just updated our return on environment, which we hope to get to you in the very short future here. That program, the livable landscapes, I'm very happy to say we've probably completed about 98% of all the goals and recommendations in there. So updating that will set the future for the next 10 years. So we're looking to close the grants and the projects out that we have in hand that related to that original livable landscapes plan, and then do the new plan and apply for grants off of the new goals and recommendations. So it's kind of finish out, reset, and look to the future.
So given what you're saying, 2028 would be like end date for most of your projects, or do they extend beyond that?
Our grants that we have in hand from DCNR and others are mostly at 27, some at the very end, 28. The grants that we've provided out, we're looking at a 27 end date as well. Thank you.
And you'll be back because you get to talk about Farmland Press, because that's your baby now, right? Oh, okay. But moving into Farmland Press, if there's no other. Come on down. Good evening. Any questions regarding this?
Just ask, how's it going in your new position?
It's going well. It's extremely busy, but
You guys
very
got
positive
farms that
and
you're
good.
looking to preserve already?
Yes, we are currently in the process of preserving 11 farms, accounting for about 550 acres, and we have just started receiving applications for the 2026 funding.
You're getting the same amount you had last year in your budget? Does that seem adequate? You feel comfortable with what you're operating with?
I do feel comfortable with where we're operating, and then we get, on top of that, a fair amount of money from the Commonwealth.
And then Open Space Initiative, Farmland Preservation. And then Farmland Preservation, ACAP. Do you have any concerns about the state budget and how that might affect your program? I focus my attention elsewhere, but I haven't heard much about these issues.
For farmland preservation, for the easement purchases, I have very minimal concerns because that is a dedicated tax revenue based on a cigarette tax. The ACAP funding, I also have minimal concerns because last year that was written into tax code as a dedicated fund from the Clean Streams Fund.
Say the last part again?
The Clean Streams law
Okay.
designates some, sets aside money from the state. I forget what tax revenue line it's from, but it's a dedicated fund now.
So you're in good shape. Farmland Preserve, Route 33 TIF. how long is that, how much is left on that? Or it says, how much?
We're about halfway, and I did pull some property records a couple weeks ago, and no sales have occurred since 2023.
Does that have an end date, or no, that's like in perpetuity till the stuff is sold? I remember having a conversation about this a long time ago.
I'd have to look at the MOU. We have to dig that out from under 3 feet of dust. But I think it goes until the end of the TIF, but I need to check on that.
Next, we have custodial services. Is someone here from that department?
Yeah, I've answered this question.
Okay.
Like, I'll just ask the general question. Typically, we'll see the budget forecast, and then usually it's a little less for the projected. We exceeded the budget with our projected 2025 this year, not by much, but a little bit. I'm not seeing any additional positions added. What was the overrun? We budgeted 2.18 million, we spent 2.203. Trying to go through and see where the discrepancy is or what the ad was. And then we're budgeting for even less next year, I guess is my concern. Is that all because of the retirement and the OPEB?
Yeah, that's the primary driver for that decrease. The operating budget is going up slightly. And in terms of exceeding the projected amounts, material costs just keep going higher and higher every single year.
So I guess that's my question. If we budgeted 2.18 in 25, we spent 2.2, we're budgeting even less for 2026. Seems like we're going to put ourselves $200,000 behind the 8 ball. Unless I'm
The operating budget is going up next year.
But by $5,000, right?
Correct.
Do you need more? I mean, only due to the, cost increase or supply, or
The request should be sufficient for next year.
operations and maintenance? Again, do you have concerns about, increasing fees or?
Revenue, that's a good thing if we have more.
Well, the operating budget is going up substantially for next year, and that's primarily being driven by rising electric costs. Yeah, that's the biggest increase.
And is that a one-time?
The electric
Yes,
costs?
crossing my fingers, is that a one-time thing, or can they hit us more than once?
I believe we have negotiated agreements through procurement. I don't know the exact duration of those agreements, but I mean, they're likely to increase every so often.
Any other questions? All the equipment goes into the pooled amount, is that what I'm seeing? Rentals equipment and repair and maintenance equipment was 3?
Yes, there's a pooled line item. Pooled program operating cost covers all that.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, John, no? Next, we have my favorite topic of the day, bridges. Where are we as an overview with our bridges, the ones that we own? Or does that break down in each of the different acts? Is that how we're going to cover them? In terms of repairs, et cetera, maintenance?
Well, there's only one active project currently, the Bridge 15, Meadows Road, that's being funded through Act 13 funding. The bridge operating budget, that's our LFT funds that covers the majority of our daily operating expenses. And with Act 44 and 89, we're just letting those balances continue to accrue until they reach a point where we can complete a bridge replacement project with those balances.
Do you have anything on the radar or anything that you're looking at, or?
There's a
So
couple.
that you don't ever have another bridge like Meadows, which nobody planned on and wanted to have happen?
Well, there's definitely several bridges that, we've been trying to work with LVTS and get them onto the tip for federal and state funding. So still trying to progress through that. In terms of the other bridges, most of them are in fairly good shape.
You want her chicken on the bridge?
Ken, turn your mic off. Any other questions? And Meadows is projected when? End of next year? Am I wrong? 20?
Should be done next spring. There's an outside chance it gets done by the end of this year if the weather really cooperates for us, but I think the spring is more realistic.
Act 13 bridge improvements. Act 44 bridge improvements. Act 89 bridge improvements. P3 bridge improvements. Public Works cost allocation. All right, where's this? Capital project summary. I'm at 167 in the white book. Okay. Anyone have questions about the specific projects? (2013) bond issue projects. So these are all completed? 2019 bond issue projects, same? And then 2025 bond issue projects? Where are we with the parking deck, I guess?
So we're well into the design phase at this point. The permit application for the NPDES permit was submitted a few weeks ago to the Conservation District. We're looking to get out the contract for the precast concrete pieces in a couple weeks and hopefully have those bids back by the end of this year, because that is the longest lead time item with the project. So we wanted to get started with that early.
And then the P25 expansion, he talked about a little bit, but where, do you have a sense of?
I do not.
Any other questions? Any wish list items?
That's all in here.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, we'll close the meeting. Thank you. Mr. Millie, could you stay for 1 second?
Sure.
Could you stay for 1 second?